Shelly, I can't tell you, I am one of those people who can completely understand how you have felt.
Country music has always celebrated truth, heartbreak, hard work, and homegrown honesty. But behind the twang and tradition, many artists lived with a secret they couldn't share. In a world where image meant everything, being gay in Nashville could end a career overnight. Yet over the years, some of country's biggest names carried that truth quietly until they finally decided to speak it out loud. From stars who hid their hearts for decades to trailblazers who risked everything for authenticity, these are 20 country artists who were secretly gay. Number 20, Shelly Wright. For most of the 1990s, Shelly Wright looked like the picture of Nashville success, blonde, charming, and topping charts with songs about love and heartache. But behind the bright stage lights, she was fighting a battle that almost took her life. Wright was living a double existence, one as a country star adored by fans, and another as a woman terrified that being herself would destroy everything she'd built. In interviews, she later revealed that during her rise to fame, she was so afraid of being outed that she dated men publicly, even while secretly in relationships with women. She once admitted she'd prayed for God to fix her, thinking she couldn't be both Christian and gay in country music. In 2010, she finally came out, becoming the first major commercial country star to do so. The backlash was swift. Radio stations pulled her songs, and some industry figures distanced themselves. But the move also made her a symbol of courage. Shelly Wright's story became a turning point, showing that authenticity could exist even in the most conservative corners of Nashville. Her journey wasn't about fame, it was about survival. And in the end, by telling her truth, she helped open the door for others who were still hiding behind the curtain. For years, fans had no idea what these artists were quietly carrying behind the spotlight. Number 19, Herndon. In the 1990s, Herndon was one of Nashville's golden boys. His debut single hit #1, and his smooth voice made him a radio favorite. But while fans heard love songs about women, was quietly living a lie. For years, he tried to balance his faith, fame, and his preferences, a combination that felt impossible in country music's conservative world. In 2014, after decades of secrecy, Herndon made a decision that changed everything. Sitting for an interview, he finally said the words he'd avoided his whole life, that he is a proud gay man. It was a moment that shocked Nashville. Though whispers had followed him for years, including a scandalous arrest in the 90s, where rumors spread about his preferences, he had never confirmed anything publicly until that day. What made Ty's confession powerful wasn't just the honesty, it was his relief. He said that after coming out, it felt like he could finally breathe. His fans, instead of turning away, showed up stronger than ever. Many said they admired his courage, especially in a genre that still struggles with representation. Herndon's story proved something vital. Country music's heart isn't defined by who you love, but by how deeply you feel it. His courage not only freed him, but inspired the next generation of artists to stop pretending and start living openly. Number 18, Billy Gilman. Billy Gilman was just 11 years old when he became a country music sensation. His debut single, One Voice, made him the youngest artist to reach the Billboard Country Top 40. With his angelic tone and polished image, Billy was marketed as the perfect all-American boy. But behind that wholesome exterior, he carried a secret that the country world wasn't ready for. As Billy grew older, his career began to stall. The country industry didn't seem to know what to do with a former child star whose voice had changed, and whose identity no longer fit the mold Nashville expected. For years, he kept quiet about his preferences, fearing that being open would close every professional door he had left. That changed in 2014, when Herndon came out publicly. Inspired by Herndon's bravery, Billy decided to tell his own truth, releasing a heartfelt video on YouTube where he shared that he was gay. He spoke about the fear of rejection, the silence, and the weight of trying to live up to others' expectations. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Fans who'd grown up with him celebrated his honesty, and his career found new life as he transitioned toward pop and contemporary music. Behind the rhinestones and record deals were real people trying to make peace with themselves. Number 17, TJ Osborne. For years, TJ Osborne stood center stage as one half of the award-winning duo Brothers Osborne, known for hits like Stay a Little Longer. Fans loved his deep voice and southern charm, but few knew the secret he carried off stage. Behind the fame, TJ struggled with the same fear that haunted so many before him, the fear that being honest about who he was could end everything he'd worked for. In 2021, TJ made history. In an emotional interview with Time magazine, he came out publicly as gay, becoming the first openly gay man signed to a major country label. It was a moment that rippled through Nashville, a city where, for decades, artists were told to stay silent about anything that didn't fit the image. TJ admitted he had spent years wondering if his truth would make people stop listening. But when he finally came out, the opposite happened. The country community rallied around him. At the CMA Awards, he received a standing ovation after performing Younger Me, a song he wrote about his journey, a letter to the boy who once thought he'd never belong. His story isn't just about courage, it's about evolution. TJ showed that country music could finally make space for every kind of love, and in doing so, he turned his private battle into a public breakthrough that redefined what it means to be a country star. Some chose to stay silent for decades, while others risked everything to live honestly. Number 16, Kristen Hall. In the early 2000s, the country pop group Sugarland was on fire. With Jennifer Nettles leading vocals and hit songs climbing the charts, they became one of Nashville's biggest success stories. But before fame took off, there was another key figure behind the band, songwriter and guitarist Kristen Hall. She co-founded Sugarland, co-wrote many of their early songs, and helped shape their sound. Then suddenly, in 2006, she was gone. Officially, Sugarland said Kristen left to focus on songwriting, but behind the scenes, whispers circulated. Some industry insiders claimed she'd been pushed out, partly because she didn't fit the image Nashville wanted. She was openly gay and proudly different in a world obsessed with presentation. At the time, Hall wasn't outspoken about her preferences, but within the industry, people knew. That quiet truth, paired with her look and personality, clashed with country music's tightly managed image of femininity. After her departure, Sugarland became a duo and rose to massive fame. Meanwhile, Kristen quietly continued writing and producing, staying out of the spotlight. Years later, fans began re-examining her story, realizing how rare and risky it was for a queer woman to be part of a major country act during that era. Number 15, Marren Morris. Marren Morris has never exactly fit Nashville's mold. From her breakthrough hit My Church to her outspoken views on gender and equality, she's always been a boundary pusher in an industry built on tradition. But in 2024, she made headlines again, this time not for her music, but for her truth. Marren publicly came out as interested in both men and women, revealing that she'd spent much of her career quietly navigating her identity while trying to survive the politics of the country scene. For years, Marren had been one of the few mainstream voices defending the LGBTQ+ community within country music. She spoke out when others stayed silent, calling out industry hypocrisy and championing inclusivity. Yet, even as an ally, she hadn't shared her full truth. That changed when she decided to leave Nashville's corporate side behind, saying she was done trying to fit in. Coming out was the final step in reclaiming her story. The response was overwhelmingly supportive, especially from fans who saw her courage as proof that authenticity still matters. Some stories took decades to surface, and when they did, they quietly changed everything. Number 14, Shane McAnally. Before Shane McAnally became one of Nashville's most successful songwriters, he was an artist chasing a record deal in the 1990s. He had the talent, the look, the voice, and the drive. But behind the scenes, he carried a secret he felt could end his career. Shane was gay, and at that time, being open about it in country music was nearly unthinkable. During his early years in Nashville, he kept his personal life private, even from close friends. In later interviews, Shane said that living that way took a toll on him. He left the city for a while, moved to Los Angeles, and started over, away from the expectations and pressure that came with trying to fit an interesting Nashville's image. When he returned years later, it was on his own terms. Shane shifted from performing to songwriting, crafting hits for artists like Casey Musgraves, Kenny Chesney, and Sam Hunt. By then, he was openly gay, and his success quietly challenged the old rules of country music. McAnally never turned his story into a headline. He simply let his work speak for itself. Over time, he became one of the industry's most respected figures, showing that talent doesn't need approval to matter. Nashville may sing about heartbreak, but it rarely talks about the kind that comes from hiding who you are. Number 13, Orville Peck. When Orville Peck first stepped into the spotlight, country music didn't quite know what to make of him. Wearing a fringed leather mask and cowboy hat, he looked like a character from another time, mysterious, theatrical, and unapologetically different. But behind the mask was a voice that could stop a room cold, deep, soulful, and steeped in the classic country traditions of heartbreak and wanderlust. Unlike many before him, Orville never hid who he was. He's openly gay, but his artistry has never revolved around labels. Instead, he's focused on emotion, loneliness, love, and the search for belonging, the same timeless themes that define country music itself. His albums, including Pony and Bronco, mixed the grit of old-school Western storytelling with a modern edge, connecting with fans far beyond the typical country audience. The mask became a symbol, not of secrecy, but of control. It let Orville decide what parts of himself to share in a world that often demands everything. Critics praised his ability to blend vulnerability with confidence, a cowboy who wears his heart on his sleeve, even if his face is covered. In an industry built on image, Orville Peck quietly proved that you don't have to fit a mold to make your mark. Number 12. Brandi Carlile. Brandi Carlile didn't set out to be a trailblazer, she just wanted to sing. Her powerful voice and honest songwriting made her one of the most respected artists in Americana and country music, though her journey to acceptance wasn't simple. Growing up in a small town in Washington, Brandi fell in love with country storytelling early on. But as she entered the industry, she quickly realized that being open about her personal life might come with consequences. When she came out as gay in her early 20s, it wasn't headline news, but it did shape how she navigated her career. Many executives didn't know what to do with her. She didn't fit the mainstream Nashville image. So Brandi did something rare. She built her own path, writing songs about real love and pain without disguising where they came from. Her 2018 album, By the Way, I Forgive You, earned her multiple Grammy Awards and cemented her as one of the most authentic voices of her generation. She later co-founded the all-female supergroup The Highwomen, challenging the gender imbalance in country and roots music. Brandi Carlile never set out to change Nashville's standards, but her success did it quietly. She proved that great music doesn't need permission, it just needs truth. And by being herself, she helped redefine what country can mean in today's world. For these artists, coming out wasn't a headline, it was a turning point. Number 11. K.D. Lang. Before she became a global icon, K.D. Lang started out singing pure, classic-style country music in small-town Canada. With her sharp voice, quirky charm, and love for Patsy Cline, she quickly gained attention from Nashville in the 80s. But even as her fame grew, she didn't fit the traditional mold of what a country female artist was supposed to be. She dressed androgynously, avoided the glamour that was expected of women in the genre, and kept her private life closely guarded. In 1992, K.D. Lang publicly came out as gay in an interview with The Advocate. At the time, country music was far less open than it is now, and the announcement caused a stir. Some radio stations stopped playing her songs, and parts of the industry quietly distanced themselves. Still, she stood by her truth, calm, confident, and unapologetic. Lang eventually leaned more toward pop and jazz influences, winning multiple Grammy Awards and earning international acclaim. But her country roots never left her. She remained one of the few artists to challenge Nashville's standards without bitterness or defiance. Looking back, K.D. Lang didn't just break barriers, she did it with grace. She didn't try to fight the system head-on, she simply outgrew it. Her legacy stands as a reminder that talent often speaks louder than conformity, and sometimes, walking away from the spotlight is how you end up shining the brightest. Number 10. Patrick Haggerty. In 1973, long before Nashville was ready for any kind of open conversation about his preferences, a small band from Seattle quietly made history. The group was called Lavender Country, and its frontman, Patrick Haggerty, became its first openly gay artist to release a full country album. The record, also titled Lavender Country, was raw, political, and deeply personal, filled with songs about love, isolation, and the struggles of living authentically in a world that refused to understand. At the time, the album barely circulated outside the LGBTQ+ community. It was banned from country radio and ignored by major record stores. But Haggerty wasn't trying to fit in. He was trying to document what life really felt like for people like him. His work spoke to the loneliness of being invisible and the hope that someday, someone might listen. For decades, Lavender Country was nearly forgotten until the internet revived it in the 2010s, sparking new recognition for its historical importance. Haggerty began performing again, often to younger audiences who saw him as a pioneer rather than a rebel. Every era of country music has had rebels, but not all of them carried guitars. Number 9. Katie Pruitt. Katie Pruitt grew up in a conservative household in Georgia, where faith and tradition were central to everything. From a young age, she loved music, especially country and folk, and dreamed of one day telling her own stories through song. But as she got older, Katie faced a conflict that would shape her entire career. She realized she was gay, and for years she struggled to reconcile that truth with the beliefs she was raised with. Her debut album, Expectations, became her breakthrough moment. Instead of hiding her identity, Katie wrote about it openly: the confusion, the guilt, the hope, and ultimately, the freedom. Tracks like Loving Her and Grace Has a Gun explored what it meant to question everything you've been taught and still come out with love and faith intact. Pruitt's music doesn't lecture or provoke, it invites listeners into her world. Her voice, rich and emotional, carries the honesty of someone who's walked through doubt and comes out stronger. Critics praised her for her storytelling and for bringing a fresh perspective to the modern Americana scene. For Katie, being open wasn't about making a statement, it was about surviving. Her songs remind audiences that country music's heart has always been about real stories, and hers is one of learning to love yourself, even when it feels like the world isn't ready to. Number 8. Brandy Clark. Brandy Clark has never been the loudest voice in country music, but she's one of its most respected. Born and raised in a small logging town in Washington state, Brandy grew up on stories told through song. That love for storytelling carried her to Nashville, where she became one of the most sought-after songwriters of her generation, penning hits for Miranda Lambert, Casey Musgraves, and the band Perry. For years, she worked behind the scenes, crafting songs about heartbreak, small-town struggles, and the messy parts of life. When she began performing her own material, listeners noticed something rare, a songwriter who didn't just write what sounded good, but what felt real. Brandy is openly gay, though she's never used her personal life as a headline or a selling point. Instead, she's focused on authenticity. Though she's faced the quiet resistance that often greets non-traditional artists in Nashville, Brandy's reputation has only grown. Multiple Grammy nominations later, she's earned respect for staying true to her craft. Brandy Clark's success isn't about controversy. It's about craft, conviction, and calm confidence. In a genre that's slowly widening its borders, she's shown that truth and talent can speak louder than any label ever could. Their songs stayed the same, but the freedom behind them made every lyric hit harder. Number 7. Brooke Eden. Before Brooke Eden found her voice, she had already built a name for herself in Nashville's rising star circles. With her powerful vocals and radio-friendly sound, she seemed poised to become one of country's next breakout names. But behind the bright stage lights, Brooke was living in silence about something deeply personal, her long-term relationship with a woman. At the time, Nashville's traditional culture made that kind of openness difficult. Brooke spent years keeping her relationship private, fearing that being honest might cost her a career she had worked hard to build. Yet the strain of pretending became impossible to carry. In 2021, she decided to share her truth publicly, revealing her engagement to her longtime partner, Hillary Hoover, who also works in the country industry. To her surprise, fans and fellow artists largely responded with support. Country radio, once hesitant, began to embrace her new music. Eden's openness didn't come with speeches or defiance, just the quiet relief of being herself. Her journey reflects how much the country scene is changing, slowly but surely. Brooke didn't set out to challenge Nashville's norms. She simply stopped pretending. And in doing so, she became a voice for honesty in a genre still learning to accept it. Their journeys reveal something deeper, that authenticity, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way to the stage. Number 6. Amythyst Kiah. Amythyst Kiah isn't your typical country artist, and that's exactly what makes her stand out. Blending elements of country, blues, folk, and old-time Appalachian music, she has created a sound that's deeply Southern but far from traditional. Born and raised in Tennessee, Amythyst grew up surrounded by gospel and bluegrass. Yet she often felt like an outsider, a black queer woman in spaces that didn't always reflect her. Music became her way of working through that tension. With a voice both raw and commanding, she began performing at small festivals and caught attention for her honesty and power. Her song, Black Myself, originally recorded with the group Our Native Daughters, became a breakthrough moment. It earned her a Grammy nomination and recognition as one of the most fearless songwriters in Americana. Kiah has spoken about struggling with isolation and self-doubt, especially while navigating her identity in a genre still defined by its traditions. Yet she never used that struggle as a crutch. Instead, she poured it into songs that examine belonging, loss, and self-acceptance. Her music doesn't fit neatly into any box, and that's her strength. Amythyst Kiah represents a newer generation of country-rooted artists who honor the past while reshaping it. She's not trying to redefine country music from the outside. She's reminding people that its roots were always more diverse than they seemed. Number 5. Jessye DeSilva. Jessye DeSilva may not be a household name yet, but within the Americana and alt-country world, their voice is quickly becoming one to watch. With roots in the folk and gospel traditions that shaped Southern storytelling, Jessye's music is tender, spiritual, and deeply personal. Their songs explore faith, family, and identity, universal themes told through a uniquely introspective lens. Growing up in a religious household, Jessye found early comfort in church choirs and piano hymns. But as they began to understand their identity as queer and non-binary, that same environment became complicated. Music became both refuge and revelation, a space to reconcile belief and self-acceptance. Their 2023 album, Landscapes, was widely praised for its vulnerability. Critics compared Jessye's lyrical depth to early Brandi Carlile and Jason Isbell, noting how they merge emotional honesty with quiet strength. Jessye DeSilva doesn't try to shock or provoke. Their art is about connection, finding peace between contradictions, and proving that country-inspired music can hold many kinds of truths. In a genre often defined by tradition, Jessye represents its evolving heart, one that makes room for difference without losing its soul. Number 4. Cameron Hawthorn. Cameron Hawthorn first gained attention for his smooth, classic country sound, the kind that pays homage to George Strait and Vince Gill. But what truly set him apart wasn't just his voice or songwriting. It was a music video that quietly broke one of country music's long-standing taboos. In 2019, Cameron released Dancing in the Living Room, a simple, heartfelt song about love. The video featured real couples dancing together at home and ended with Cameron himself dancing with his boyfriend, which was his own way of letting the cat out of the bag. There were no speeches or shock tactics, just a genuine moment of affection. For country fans used to a narrow idea of romance, it was both surprising and disarmingly normal. The video went viral, earning praise for its honesty and elegance. It wasn't a protest or a challenge. It was a reminder that love, in its purest form, doesn't need explaining. Since then, Hawthorn has continued to build a loyal fan base. Rather than distancing himself from Nashville's traditions, Cameron has embraced them, showing that authenticity doesn't cancel out heritage. His approach feels rooted, respectful, and quietly bold. Cameron Hawthorn didn't set out to rewrite country music's rules, he just wanted to dance without hiding. And in doing so, he proved that the simplest love stories can sometimes make the biggest difference. Their journeys reveal something deeper, that authenticity, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way to the stage. Number 3. Waylon Payne. Waylon Payne was practically born into country music. The son of singer Sammy Smith, best known for Help Me Make It Through the Night, and guitarist Jody Payne, who played for Willie Nelson, his childhood was steeped in honky-tonks and heartbreak. But his journey through country music wasn't straightforward. It was turbulent, redemptive, and deeply human. Named after his godfather, Waylon Jennings, Payne inherited both the sound and the struggle of outlaw country. Early in his career, he showed promise as a performer and songwriter, but his life quickly spiraled into addiction and personal battles. During that period, he also came to terms with his preferences, something that complicated his path in a genre that wasn't always forgiving. After years away from the spotlight, Payne made a powerful return with his 2020 album, Blue Eyes, The Harlot, The Queer, The Pusher, and Me. The record was raw and unfiltered, part confessional, part resurrection. Critics praised it for its honesty, calling it one of the most moving country albums of the decade. Today, Payne is seen as one of Nashville's most compelling storytellers. His songs blend the grit of classic country with the vulnerability of someone who's lived through redemption. Waylon Payne's story isn't about rebellion for attention. It's about survival, forgiveness, and the courage to start again, the kind of tale country music was built to tell. Number 2, Shelly Fairchild. Shelly Fairchild's story is one of talent, timing, and quiet resilience. She burst onto the Nashville scene in the mid-2000s with her debut album, Ride, earning praise for her powerhouse vocals and emotional delivery. At a time when image mattered as much as music, she felt constant pressure to fit a version of femininity that didn't match who she was. She later revealed that she was gay, but had kept her identity private for years out of fear it could stall her career. When record label struggles and industry politics eventually did derail her momentum, Shelly took a step back from the spotlight to rebuild on her own terms. Her comeback was gradual but powerful. She released Buffalo in 2017, an album filled with introspection and soul. The project wasn't about proving anything, it was about peace, love, and authenticity. Fairchild also became a mentor and advocate for inclusivity in country music, helping younger artists navigate the same fears she once had. Today, she's not chasing chart positions. She's building a legacy based on strength. Shelly Fairchild didn't just find her voice again, she reclaimed it. And in doing so, she reminded Nashville that the best kind of country is the kind that tells the truth. Number 1. Jaime Wyatt. Jaime Wyatt might look like a modern outlaw, but her story goes far deeper than the leather jackets and tattoos. Her music, rooted in classic country and blues, carries the hard-earned wisdom of someone who's lived every lyric she sings. Wyatt's journey began with promise, a record deal in her teens, and a reputation as one of Los Angeles' most talented young voices. But fame didn't come easily. Her early life unraveled after addiction and legal troubles led to a short prison sentence, a rare reality for someone in country music. Instead of letting it end her career, Jaime used that experience as fuel. When she returned, she poured everything into her songwriting, confronting pain, guilt, and redemption with fearless honesty. Her 2020 album, Neon Cross, produced by Shooter Jennings, became her defining moment. In it, she also came out publicly as gay, sharing that her sense of isolation had once pushed her towards self-destruction. Rather than framing it as a revelation, she treated it like just another truth, one of many that shaped her life and art. Today, Jaime Wyatt stands as one of outlaw country's most respected voices, unfiltered, soulful, and real. Her music doesn't dwell on image or controversy. It's about finding beauty in broken places. In a genre built on hard stories and harder lessons, she's proof that honesty is still the bravest act of all. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and click on the next video shown on your screen.